I really overall enjoyed Peacemaker Season 2. However, after watching the finale, I realized it has a fatal flaw. It suffers from the comic book movie shared universe problem. Despite that, I appreciate the show not being a cameo fest like Marvel Cinematic Universe projects. In the series, only Lex and one of his grunts from Superman end up being the only surprise characters to reappear. However, that does not mean Peacemaker Season 2 is a perfect end to the show. Rather than the series coming to a close with Christopher Smith leaving his trauma as Peacemaker behind, we get a cliffhanger that seems won't be resolved for a long while, which I'll get into depth about later. This is disappointing to me, as I remember James Gunn stating he wanted DCU projects to be mostly self-contained so that people would be able to watch the DCU projects without bouncing to other ones. To be fair though, he isn't totally wrong. Peacemaker Season 2 up until the finale was a self-contained story with Peacemaker, aka Christopher Smith, running away from his problems in the DCU due to Rick Flag Sr. going after him for killing his son in the Suicide Squad. With it being the final season of the show, you'd think it ends satisfyingly, but sadly, like I said, it falls into the shared universe trap since the show is now officially a part of the DCU. While I had my gripes with the second season besides that, with episodes being shorter than season 1, I overall loved the first 7 episodes. Even when nothing major was going on, I still appreciated the character moments. The humor you'd expect from the show was there too. I like how it retconned that the Justice Gang was there instead of the League. It was hilarious gaslighting. I also love stuff like the Eagly subplot, and honestly, it was a big highlight of the season for me. I loved how much of a menace he was with him brutalizing Argus agents. I also found new characters like Flurry hilarious, with him having bird blindness believing Eagly to be a duck.
Look out!
Flurry! Fucking duck attacked me.
I found the Looney Tunes humor with Michael Rooker's character in a live-action setting over the top hilarious. Eagly being revealed to be the prime eagle before he kills him with a fleet of other birds was a great end to that subplot of the season. Despite the humor carrying episodes, I will admit Peacemaker Season 2 was definitely a slow burn. In Season 2 of Peacemaker, we see glimpses of this seemingly perfect alternate world where Chris's father Augie actually loves him and his brother Keith is still alive in it. Peacemaker visits it occasionally. In this universe, there are some shocking reveals, like how he did not kill Rick Flag Jr. in this world. However, some episodes may feel boring to some, like the one where Peacemaker moves the interdimensional gateway to an abandoned cabin. It's not until the climax of the show he finally decides to ditch his friends, the 11th Street kids, in favor of this so-called perfect world. It's a universe where Peacemaker isn't viewed as a murderous anti-hero, but rather a beloved superhero that's a part of his family's team, the Top Trio. In this universe, Chris has way more going on for him, including being in a relationship with Amelia Harcourt, someone who seemingly can't stand him in his world. Chris is fixated on a romantic fling they had of some sort on a party boat and wonders if it felt something to her. To his dismay though, Amelia Prime denies it. So rather than confront his problems in the DCU, like Rick Flag Sr. being after him and his unrequited love in this universe, he uses this new dimension to fully ignore them. Honestly, it was a fun ride up until the finale's final moments. The arc Chris went through up to episode 7 was great, with him being ignorant of the true nature of this universe he thinks is perfect. That true nature being that it's Earth X, a world where the evil mustache man and the Nazis took over America after World War II. Episode 7 did a great job, wrapping up the story of Earth X. It appears like it will end some somewhat happy with Blue Dragon sparing the group and allowing them to go back to their home dimension. Sadly though, Chris ends up witnessing his alternate universe father die by Vigilante and his doppelganger's hands. This death is honestly tragic since Augie, despite living in Earth X, is not a fascist this time. He is a man who tried his best to raise his boys to do the right thing despite living in Nazi world. Unfortunately though, he did not do a perfect job as Peacemaker turned out to be very toxic and Keith is a full-on racist.
What got out? I'm black!
What?
Augie's death angers his alternate brother Keith, who attacks him and his friends as a way of revenge. This is because he now knows Chris is partially responsible for his brother's death along with his father. Chris, seemingly witnessing his brother die again, is distraught. He views himself as the problem and not the evil Earth X universe. Chris had a bad childhood in his own universe and feels immense trauma due to the fact he ruined the lives of a seemingly happier version of his family. All this trauma Peacemaker has gone through due to his past actions, such as killing Rick Flag Jr., leads to him deciding to give himself up to the police, along with the dimensional rift, rather than fight for his freedom. The cliffhanger honestly was great overall. With the reveal, Keith was still alive. You'd think we'd have a banger action-packed finale after all that setup. However, the finale is instead quite slow and more of an epilogue. Honestly, I did not straight up hate the finale of Peacemaker Season 2. It's not completely a nothing burger like some people online have said. I actually enjoyed it for the most part. I love the party boat flashback reveal with Chris and Amelia clearly having some unresolved romantic feelings with each other. She kisses him during the concert, then runs away. It was nice finally seeing this moment that Chris held on to all throughout the show. The larger story it teases with Rick Flag Sr. was also very compelling. It builds on the appearance of Lex Luthor from episode 6, with him becoming more corrupt due to their new relationship. Rick Flag Sr. is ignorant of the danger he puts his Argus employees through, with the dimensions killing multiple members. His son, Rick Flag Jr., was a character that James Gunn wrote brilliantly in the Suicide Squad, and he actually made me devastated when he died. With Creature Commandos, his father appeared to play a similar role, with him leading his own task force of monsters, but he did not do much aside from being down bad for Princess Alana. This season of Peacemaker as a whole developed him very well as a character. His role in season 2 of this show really subverted my expectations, similar to his appearance in Creature Commandos, with me expecting him to be heroic and badass in the latter show. However, instead of having memorable fight scenes all throughout the show, Rick Flag Sr. got bodied by Clayface. And yeah, after finishing the show in hindsight, he should have been killed by Clayface. I am not gonna lie. This show does a great job explaining why Rick Flag Sr. is the way he is though. He states that his son was a better man than he'd ever be. Rick Flag Jr., while working for a sadist like Amanda Waller, at least had a sense of camaraderie with Task Force X. He went out of his way to save Harley and had a sense of justice, with him threatening to reveal Project Starfish to the press before Peacemaker killed him. Unlike his son, Rick Flag Sr. lacks that sense of justice due to being blinded by revenge because of Chris's actions. Not only that, but after the film Superman's events, some clear fear of metahumans looms over him after being told they now make the rules. Due to how corrupt Rick Flag Sr. has become, the 11th Street kids track down Peacemaker, who they bailed out of prison, and managed to convince him that he's loved. Adebayo's heartfelt speech to Chris is honestly my favorite part of this finale. They all know Chris is an irreplaceable part of the group, and they know for a fact he is a changed man. In his past, he was surrounded surrounded by bad influences, like his father who had him kill his brother, and Amanda Waller who convinced him to kill Rick Flag Jr. However, by the end of the season, he learns not to have his past define him. Things end up really looking up for Chris in the finale's last few moments, with Amelia Harcourt revealing the boat meant everything to her. He does a celebratory dance and a montage ensues. The biggest revelation from this montage is that the 11th Street Kids and some ex-Argus members, including Flurry and Judo Master, founding a more pro-metahuman organization from the comics called Checkmate. Everything is looking great for Chris, with him and Amelia seemingly in a relationship, with them on another party boat concert. The finale ends with him giving up his violent anti-hero lifestyle to do some good in the world for once. The Peacemaker series finale, while not action-packed like the first seasons, was a heartwarming epilogue, teasing what looked to be a DCU take on The Office called Checkmate. There are flaws with the finale, sure, like the abundance of music montages in it, but the ending was really sweet for Chris. Unfortunately though, that happy ending comes to an end, with Chris being kidnapped by Rick Flag Sr. and tossed into Salvation, an interdimensional prison. He intends to put more metahumans in there as it has breathable air and seemingly some dangerous creatures. While the stinger is intriguing, I do have a big issue with it. It prevents Peacemaker as a series from being self-contained. While I get James Gunn wanted to set up the DCU on a larger scale with this season's end, the stinger did not really need to be there. We know Rick Flag Sr. wants to make the Dimensional Gateway a prison, and we know Chris and the 11th Street Kids oppose it due to them founding Checkmate. The stinger, in my opinion, kinda in a way ruins the optimistic ending that could have wrapped up the series. Honestly, I would have greatly preferred if this was saved for the opening or end of the first episode of a potential Checkmate series, maybe even a trailer. The Peacemaker finale makes it clear Chris's arc as an anti-hero has come to a close, and I wish the series ended with a more happy ending. He had a found family and a bright future ahead of him. But no, can't have it be self-contained, we gotta set up the next event, that being Salvation Run about DC supervillains being trapped on another dimension of similar name. Still, I will admit, I like how the Salvation Run tease kinda fits the theme song Oh Lord's lyrics in a literal sense. Chris literally is in a hungry world, like Julian in the song, where unseen creatures may attempt to eat him alive. Still, the fact this was said to be a series finale for Peacemaker is my main problem with the cliffhanger being there. I get James said the characters would be in other projects, but he also stated he didn't want to give the audience homework in the past. I kinda wish the show ended with Checkmate being founded and that we got a little hint that Rick was still tracking Peacemaker during said montage. An open ending would have been way better in my opinion. While I don't fully like it, I get the appeal of having a stinger like this, honestly. Having Peacemaker be the one to kickstart this DCU comic adapted event is pretty dope. I won't lie, James Gunn will probably cook with this Salvation concept. Still, besides the boat flashback, the Rick Flag Sr. subplot, and some standout character moments, not much of note really happens besides this stinger. I am not 100% against this tease being there, given the fact Peacemaker is a big part of the DCU now. Still, I greatly miss the self-contained nature of Season 1, where its goal was to tell a unique self-contained story rather than set up massive events. While nowadays I prefer the DCU to modern Marvel movies by a long mile, Peacemaker is definitely suffering to an extent from the shared universe aspect. To be fair, Batman vs Superman suffered from that aspect way more with the glorified Justice League trailer scene. Honestly, I'm not too surprised of this dip in quality though, as James Gunn was juggling the DCU's first 3 projects which were written solely by him, with those being Creature Commandos, Superman, and the second season of Peacemaker. Because of his focus mostly being on Superman at the time, I am not too surprised by Season 2's shorter runtime, or it being a bit half-baked, similar to Creature Commandos Season 1. Both seasons of television pale in comparison to that film. I am hoping Lanterns will be a lot better, since a different person is handling that show. However, I am not against James Gunn writing DCU projects. In fact, I appreciate him being a lead creative, which makes him stand out more, unlike, say, Kevin Feige. Still, with the first 3 projects having him be the sole writer, it unfortunately led to the DCU having a slightly sloppy start. Superman is the one exception though. I loved how it was self-contained despite teasing stuff like the Authority. Honestly, I hope future DCU shows have a writer's room, as in my opinion, James bit off too much than he can chew by tackling 2 shows along with a movie. I liked Peacemaker Season 2 for the most part, and unlike some fans upset by the finale, I am not going to say the gun is jammed. I will, however, say that at the moment, James has unfortunately run out of a few bullets. But I believe in the future, he will successfully reload the gun. I do understand the disappointment fans are feeling, but honestly, not every comic book project needs to be cameo heavy. I honestly preferred the optimistic ending the show got before the Salvation Run tease. While action is fun, it means nothing without characters and heart, and Season 2 of Peacemaker had plenty of it. However, I am disappointed the series ended with it expecting audiences to watch another project. Not only that, but the 13 minutes of interviews and mobile game ads did not need to be a part of this episode's runtime. James Gunn definitely overhyped the finale a bit, I will admit, so I get fans' disappointment with it. Regardless of that though, Peacemaker Season 2 clears most Disney Plus Marvel shows, I will admit that. While Peacemaker as a show may be over and did not end how I'd like it to, I am happy the character of Christopher Smith has more stories to tell. I honestly hope the cliffhanger gets resolved sooner rather than later, whether it be in Man of Tomorrow, a Salvation Run miniseries, or the Checkmate show. Honestly, whichever comes first, since I don't like the idea of the character of Peacemaker being on the shelf for a while. This has been Shade X, and I hope you all feel nothing but good vibes.